Welcome back to the show. Today, we're going to talk about the biggest mistakes that first-time entrepreneurs make. This is extremely relatable to any entrepreneur. I've been there. I've done this. And we're going to talk about it in this episode. So let's get into it. So the number one thing that I fall into myself is the idea trap. This idea that you're falling in love with your idea. You're so in love with your idea that you're not really solving the customer's problem. You're just in your own mind think that your idea is so great that it's going to be the answer to everyone's problem that you're not willing to look at it for what it is. And that you're going to be willing to be so stuck on this that you'll absolutely die on this hill for this idea because you're so in love with it. And it's a very real thing. And I get it, because think about this. If you want to take that risk to go out on your own, people are motivated by many things. And a lot of times it's getting over the fear of, how am I going to do this? How am I going to step out on what I have going on? I've got all this responsibility, but there's something that pushes you over the edge that allows you to take that leap of faith to go into it. But a lot of times you have a lot of passion behind that very thing that's going to allow you to push yourself off that cliff into your business, into this new adventure of starting, going out into the world and putting either a product or service out there for customers to buy. And the one thing that I find is a common thing, and I just can't tell you how I've fallen into this, especially when we first started, is that I had an idea that I thought was going to be exactly what the customer wanted. And when I pitched the idea, people would listen to me and go, yeah, I don't want to do that. And at first you go, am I not persistent enough? Is it not something that I'm pushing enough? Is my customer not understanding? Are they not understanding the words that are coming out of my mouth? Do they not understand how great this idea is? And pretty soon you go to customer after customer after customer. And if they're not buying, it's because maybe that idea isn't quite what they're looking for. And sometimes people just wait way too long, because you do need to test ideas out, right? If you have an idea that you've come up with, that you took a leap of faith on, you have to test the market. But if you consistently get pushback, or people are not interested, or it's something that doesn't even, I would say, like, just resonate, right? If people can't even see it, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to die on that hill and keep going and going and going. It's not one of those things that you keep knocking on doors until you get a yes. I mean, yes, that is the definition of being perseverant, and there's nothing wrong with being perseverant, but you got to be smart about it. So you need to take that feedback that you're getting and really just look at what's going on in that particular idea and realize maybe that's not what the customer was looking for. That's not the problem that they wanted you to solve. So how do you achieve this knowledge base if you're not willing to stop and just analyze what you're doing? If you're not willing to listen to people giving you feedback? If your customer is telling you one thing, you can go around, and if you have a mentor or someone that you trust and you pitch the idea, they may say, oh man, that's a really good idea. But if you go to execute the idea and it's not working for you, then you need to make an adjustment. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to abandon it completely and try something new. You might just need to do some type of variation. Maybe the delivery as a whole, or the solution that you're presenting, maybe it has some really good foundational parts, but maybe it needs a few tweaks. Maybe it needs some moderate tweaks, or maybe it needs a complete overhaul. But the best part of this is that you're going to learn what people are telling you, and that's going to be the best market research that you're going to get, because you're dealing with this firsthand. And people are not afraid to, maybe they're going to be nice to you, but the bottom line is the true test is whether or not you're gaining customers or not. I'm not saying that it's always going to be super easy and people are going to buy right off the bat, but you should listen to what people are telling you. And maybe they don't tell you directly, but ultimately, if they're not spending their dollars with you, they're telling you directly. So the second thing is ignoring how ideas compare to your competition. So if you have somebody doing similar business and you want to go in and do something different because your idea is better, you always need to understand what your competition is doing. It sounds simple, it sounds like it should be one on one, but when you're just immersed in your idea, sometimes you just don't want to hear something different, something that might potentially derail you, or you feel like that's negative. I think studying your competition is a very smart thing to do. Don't just take my word for it. You can listen to all these successful entrepreneurs, huge business owners that study their competition. They want to know who else is in that sandbox. And the idea of you studying how they deliver their solution or product and the way they do it is going to be really good information for you to make better decisions on how you deliver yours. And maybe when you're going to make a pitch, that you're going to be able to, in comparison, be able to describe how much better your idea, your product, or your solution is because you took the time to understand what your competition is doing. And if they're falling short in an area, where are you going to shore up your product or solution to be able to make that more appealing to the customers that you want to gain? So a good way to think about this is we'll simplify it. If you're starting a coffee shop, you better know what the Starbucks or the big coffee shops are offering and seeing why they're doing it, because they're not coming by this information because they're just getting into it, for the first time. They're actually doing this because they've studied this over years and years of experience. And if you notice, a lot of times, even though the menu may not change, there's certain different tweaks that they're doing because they know that what they started out with may not be what people want now. So there is a moving target aspect of this that you need to pay attention to so you can be successful in delivering the passionate idea of what you wanted to bring to the table in the first place. Last thing I want to just touch on is trying to figure this all out by yourself. I'm very much into, roll up your sleeves, get in there, see for yourself, continue to make, notes, observations, whatever it is while you're doing your research, but it doesn't hurt to ask for help. So if you have someone that's in the space that you've met, someone that you know that has experience in running a business, there's nothing wrong with approaching them, pitching your idea, giving them the information that you're coming across. So you have that ability to get some insight and have somebody else look at it who has experience. I want to emphasize that, who has experience to be able to give you really good feedback and help you formulate how to hone in this idea, what you should do, what you shouldn't do based on the data. Now, I'm not saying that everything that they're going to tell you is going to be 100% right. I mean, you need to be able to think about this yourself. But the idea that you are only going to listen to you doesn't necessarily give you a significant advantage when you're trying to figure out what's going on in the marketplace. The other thing is to build a support team of mentors, right? And that mentorship, like I said before, could be somebody who is an experienced entrepreneur. But, there's nothing wrong with just having mentors that have experience in other aspects, whether it's finances, marketing. There might be some really good professionals out there, maybe that have never gone out on their own, that, and took that leap, that have very successful careers and experience, with marketing or just, customer feedback or research analytics that you can go to get some advice. And leaning on this is just going to make you better. And you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't have to be the one to always figure things out. You could take a moment and take a breath, just listen to other people, and ultimately find the answers that you're going to need so you can be successful. So once again, just to reiterate, a lot of the biggest mistakes that I see that first-time entrepreneurs make, myself included, is this idea that you are so focused on what you originally came up with that you're just unwilling to make that change, even if that change is going to be extremely successful for you. And you never know what's going to come out of making a few shifts, moderate shifts, or even major shifts to the original idea that could be extremely successful. If you found this episode helpful, share it with someone who needs to hear it. I always encourage you to subscribe. And if you have a moment, rate the show. You can find us on YouTube at HeyCharles Biz, Apple Podcasts and Spotify, HeyCharles, Instagram and TikTok, HeyCharles77, and Charles Ernst on LinkedIn. Talk to you soon.